Hey, welcome to the Pinstripe
There we go.
Chronicles.
I'm back.
Donald,
I'm like,
got
oh
Uncle
my
Ted,
god.
got Rob. Hit us up with Uncle Ted. What's happening, my guy?
All right, so good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Pitchers and Catchers Day. And as the off season starts to, officially come to its end, I have fixed baseball. Move over, Manfred. Move over, Tony Clark. Grandpa, Uncle Tats is coming to kick your asses. All right. So I have in my notes.
Grandpa
Now,
Uncle
I
Ted.
would fit that. That's for Jigga Man. He'll when he hears it, you'll like it.
No,
Um,
I've heard Jigga Man say that.
yeah.
Grandpa Uncle Ted.
So
Linda, you could be anything, man. You could be Ant Tats with the first sight that I saw of you this morning with a cigarette hanging out of your mouth and coffee. You were like, "Whoa, guys!
yeah. So here we go.
So
All right.
started here. Let's get started here.
So
Fucking snow day here in New York. Let's go."
I'm gonna go through my rule changes, and we could double back. We could analyze all of it, break it all down, critique it, whatever. So here is how I have fixed the sport of baseball. There's a salary floor of $100 million. Right? Once every 8 years, a team can declare a rebuild and avoid the minimum for that season. If the minimum is not met, that team loses any shared revenue and their draft picks.
All of them?
First round picks. First round picks.
Okay.
All right. Any contracts can be constructed prior to the winter meetings. No limits, no penalties, no nothing. 25% of contracts can only be deferred. Okay. After the winter meetings, players or teams can't sign contracts exceeding 7 years. If a player is not signed by the report date for pitches and catches, the contract cannot exceed 3. Once the first spring training game has started, any free agents cannot sign more than a 1-year contract. If you have more than 7 years MLB experience, you will automatically receive a salary of $15 million. Any less, you get 10.
Mm-hmm.
So let's break this down. Let's critique it. What would you change? What do you like about it?
Okay, first of all, let's jump into that 10 million, yep. 50 million thing. I think that's really hard to quantify because every position is different and has a different value attached. I don't care if your reliever has 7 years.
Then tell your agent not to wait.
I don't care if your mid-reliever has 7 years experience. I'm not paying him $10 to $15 million. Absolutely no question. So that's a non-starter for me. You need to cut that out. However, I do believe that there's something you can work with 7-year experience. If you're like a player of value, if you're like if you've won awards or whatever, then yeah, okay, we can make a discussion about the level of experience. But I think that's just too hard. There's too many nuances. There's too many variables. Let's just cut that out. There's a lot of good things there, though, man. Declaring a rebuild is kind of hard, though, because it will still leave a lot of options for teams to just go, rebuild. It's like Michael Scott in The Office. I declare bankruptcy.
No, right? But that's why you can only do it every 8 years.
Yeah. Again, though, there's a lot of teams are in perennial rebuild, and then what's your definition of rebuild? So I don't know how you could work with that necessarily. But the rest of the stuff is really good. I like the idea that only 25% of your contracts can be deferred. That basically stops the Dodgers from going nuts with it. So that kind of makes a lot of sense. I quite like that. And I like the fact that of the salary floor, I think 100 million is fair. Because I actually do have a list of the salaries up for the 2024 season, and the amount of teams that aren't even in the 100 mil is quite remarkable. So, for instance, the Reds, the Orioles, the Guardians, the Rays, the Pirates, the Marlins, and the A's all have payrolls of 95 million or less. The A's is spectacular, 61 million payroll attached to them. And none of that is, and that's not all just the 26-man payroll. That's just like everything combined. So it's just quite crazy to me. Um, and then obviously at the top end, the Yankees are on 289 as it stands. So there's a big disparity there. So you're looking at like at least 6 teams that have a salary payroll of under 100 mil. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, I agree with that. I think a salary floor of 100, but that means that the Marlins, who have got a payroll of 79, the Pirates payroll 87, they got a big jump to make. They'd have to spend like, well, if you're talking about the Pirates, for instance, they'd have to spend like 13 million in salaries just to make it to the 100 mil. But I like the premise. A lot of teams would be kicking off, like the A's, for instance, have a payroll of 60, which is just insane. Uh, they'd have to double their payroll just to make the floor. And what players are available in which to make that up. So maybe if you lessen the floor to maybe 90, it might be more achievable just to make it a little easier for the low market teams. But I think the premise is there. I like what you're doing there, and I agree with the salary floor. And I would just what I would change would be the demands for demanding a rebuild. But I do think that there should be a punishment if you don't reach your salary floor. Then that will do you maybe the punishments that you listed. Maybe you lose a first round draft pick, or you don't get the tax revenue from other teams that you could work with that if you don't reach the salary floor. Um, Another way you could do it is if you strategized, like for instance, the A's who have very little income and very little market and very little money, but you could still kind of work it out. Whereas, what would be a fair um, floor for them? You could do it for each individual team. It would be a fair salary floor for them, depending on what payroll, what income that they receive on an annual basis. Um, you could work that out um, and come to a. Can I understand my point is with that? You judge what their income is for ticket sales and and merchandise and all the other aspects of running a club, and then you work out well, and then of course the income that you get from the tax from the other teams, you could work out what was a fair spend would be for that particular team in each situation. Because as I say, we don't have a salary cap. So
Yeah.
again, not every team is singing from the same hymn sheet. Do you know what I'm saying? Like in the other leagues, there's a salary cap and a salary floor. So every team, and it's all very balanced like that. But in baseball, it's like an open market. So not every team will have the same amount of money. So holding every team to the same standard will be difficult to achieve. So I guess what my point is would be you would need um it would probably need to be done so that um you work out the income and the revenue for each individual team and work out what a fair floor is for that particular team. And then hold them to that standard each year. You could raise it by 1% each year, something like that, whatever it is. But I do think that might make it work. I don't know if you guys completely understand because I know it's kind of long winded, but I do you kind of understand what my point is?
I'm following.
Yeah.
Rob, what's your thoughts?
You have to have a salary floor. You
Yeah.
you can't. I mean, I get what you're trying to say, but the teams could easily when they start winning games or put a product that's watchable, people show up. I mean, Baltimore was terrible for so many years. They have one really good year and they were selling out like crazy. So they can make money back really quickly as long as you're putting up a good product. Tampa Bay, when they're winning, people show up. It's the same thing even in Miami. If they win games, people are going to show up. It's a bandwagon thing. It's just how it works in sports. So you should be able to put a salary floor out there, even if you lower it to 85, lower it to 80, 85 million, something like that. That's achievable. You don't have to sign free agents to do that. You can extend your own players. You could, or you could just sign a couple of like minimum free agents or something like that. You don't have to always get, it doesn't mean like, oh, the A's have to make up 25 million. They're going to go sign Cody Bellinger. It's not like they have to do that. They can extend their own guys or sign like 2 or 3 players.
Yeah.
So there's ways to make it work. That needs to be a thing. But the one I really, really like is the soft deadline, because if you make it to where they can't sign us for a certain amount of years by a certain date, that's going to make players want to sign quicker. So, for example, if your rules were in place right now, Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery and these guys can only sign up to what, 3 years, you said?
Yeah.
That's great. This way, if that rule is in place, they would have already been signed by now. They'd have their 6-7 year deals in place, and we wouldn't be talking about this right now. But now, if your rule was there, they would have to sign for 3 years, or if they keep waiting, they'd have to only get a 1 year deal, and that's going to really hurt them. Well, not really, because they can just re-enter the market, but then you go through the same old song and dance next year. But it forces players, not necessarily forces, but it gives players a reason to want to sign faster. So I love that. I love the salary floor. I don't think you can declare a rebuild, because teams would take advantage of that just to, even if they're like right at the minimum, they'd be like, hey, rebuild. And they're just going to spend like 30 million on their team. And they would take it, even if it's 8 years, it's a long time, but they'll find a way to take advantage of that, especially teams like Oakland and Tampa Bay and stuff like that. But everything else I like. If you don't spend the minimum, then you're going to start to lose picks. And we know for those teams, picks are precious. You should have to spend every dollar you get in revenue sharing has to go towards the salary.
Yeah.
Has to. That's another thing. These are things that should be in place. I love your ideas there. The only issue is I don't think the players would. I don't think the owners would either.
Well, no, because I also looked at this from a union's point of view. I work in a union, so I'm looking at, there has to be give and take. All right. So we're going to have, I think this is actually more player friendly than owner friendly. So I think the salary floor is definitely in favor of the players. The deferred money is in favor of the owners. Because, okay, say you want to have that, you have to reach that certain floor, and you're in that with the not with the deferred, with the rebuild. I think 8 years. I was going to say every 10 years you can, but that's you got to think. The prime years of a player is usually between 5 to 8 years. That you get in a player in their prime. There are exceptions to the rule. If you declare a rebuild, like what the Yankees would have done in 2017 when they started calling everybody up, it gives a window where, look, I'm calling up my prospects, so I might not be able to reach that minimum. So that gives you a year to evaluate your prospects, and you would have to just, it's once every 8 years. I think that was actually more down the middle. It favors both the players and the owners, and it also favors the fans.
Here's what I would do.
We'll get to see the prospects.
Here's what I would do regarding the salary floor idea. To pick up on JJ here, teams live off the Yankees and Dodgers revenue sharing. They pocket the proceeding instead of spending on the team they're supposed to. I'm going to put a star there because that is an excellent comment. So what I would do is I would make it mandatory that 70% of your income from the revenue sharing has to be spent on that season's payroll. Whether it's extending contracts or signing people in free agency or taking on contracts in a trade, you need to have 70%. And I think that's fair. 70% is fair because then the owners are still getting some kind of income in order to put into anything like upgrading the stadium or upgrading the running of the operations of the actual team itself. But 70% needs to go to the GM to upgrade that particular team, and then that will then draw in fans because you are actually looking to improve that particular product. I would say 70% is fair. I think it's a fair for both sides. It helps free agents because there'll be more teams interested and involved, and it will help the owners because there's not like 100%, which isn't necessarily fair. So I think 70%. I think there's a bit of
that is fair.
I think 70% is fair. What would you say to that?
I like the 70% because there's more to running the team than just put the player contracts. You do need to, you might need to do upgrades on the field. You might need, shit like that. But a lot of these teams also have, they have partnerships with TV revenue. So I don't want to hear that they can't reach a floor. I think that's a cop-out excuse. That especially with the way that if you go over the list for years, the way the Dodgers, the Yankees, the way the Mets went on that spending spree a couple of years ago where they had to implement a whole new tax level. There are teams that do spend the money and have that shared revenue. You have to show that you're putting that money. Look, if I'm loaning you money to help you pay your mortgage, you better pay your mortgage with it. Don't put it in your pocket.
Facts on top of facts on top of facts. Great
right?
point.
That's what pisses me off about the shared revenue, and I never was in favor of it. And as far as with the like where I had for the on that 1 year, you're also it eliminates the qualifying offer. That I'm getting rid of. There's no more qualifying offer. It's a waste. Nobody uses it anymore. They throw it out there just so they can get the extra pick.
And if he's right, I hate the fact that owners of smaller teams pocket the money. It's wrong, and as I say, and it's not just because we're spoiled Yankee fans, but you get punished at the top end, but you don't get punished at the bottom end.
Yeah,
how is that fair?
But I think this resolves the issue. Not completely, but it is a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like with the players, when they, these players that hold out. Well, you could wait, but you're just going to have to take the risk.
Yeah, why should the Yankees have to give money to the lower end teams? Why should the Dodgers and the Mets and all these teams that are above that threshold, why should they have to give money to these other teams if they're not going to spend it? If they don't spend it, they should get the money back. Kind of like the Rule 5 draft. If you take a player from us and you don't put him on the active roster, that other team gets him back. Maybe you do that where the Yankees get, let's say the Yankees are giving, I don't know, 10 million of it goes to Oakland, right? And they don't spend it, or they only spend like 7 million of it. The Yankees get 3 million back. Maybe something like that. I don't know. This way it would force teams to have to spend it, whether it's on field stuff like working on the stadium, whatever. Put Oakland Stadium out of the conversation. That thing's a dump. Yeah. But just whether it's on salaries for the staff or for working on, even the uniform, something, as long as they're spending the money on the team, whether it's players, coaches, whatever, the stadium staff do something with that money. So at least it's going to something that's going to benefit, not just the owner. I need to go pay for my freaking car insurance, so I'm going to take the Yankees money and go pay for it. Something stupid like that. And Jones said, I'd like to see the A's books. Yeah, I'd like to see it too.
Yep.
What are they doing? They get all this money every year from these teams, and they just continuously have no money to spend, and they're always claiming broke. By this point, they should have the second highest payroll in baseball, with all the revenue sharing they get. So, It's ridiculous. They need to change that. And Oakland's a big culprit of it. A lot of other teams do the same thing, but they're always perennially at the bottom of that payroll list. So they're the ones you kind of have to look at.
And how's this for a punishment? To jump on what Rob just said right there. How's this for a punishment? The amount of money that you're short of that particular floor. So say the A's have a 66 million payroll, which they are currently projected as, and it's an 80 million floor. The 14 million you work out as a percentage, and then it's redistributed to the teams at the top end.
Yeah.
So
I've never.
It's fair. It's a punishment. If you don't spend that, then you don't get the money, and then that money is redistributed back to the other teams, because there's other teams that want to spend that they can't. There's teams that flat out refuse to spend because they're taking advantage of the system and the owners are cheap. But there are some teams that are genuinely small market but want to change, want to spend, and want to improve, but they're kind of limited. So hey, maybe redistributing that will help make it a little fairer. But I'm all for parity, and we're all for parity here. I know we're Yankee fans, so we want our Yankees to spend a lot of money and be competitive every year. But I support parity in the league. You know, I support parity in the NBA. I support parity in the NFL. I support parity all around. Even though we all root for big market teams, I support parity, but it needs to be fair. They need to keep up their end of the bargain, the small market teams. They can't just take our money and just sit on it. I think it's disgraceful.
Yeah, I mean, I've never known an MLB owner lose money owning a team. We just saw this. We just saw the sale with the Orioles. The guy originally bought it. I think it was for $70 million and sold it for over $1 billion. So these owners are not crying. These owners are not in poverty. I'm not. I don't want to hear that shit.
Dude, Oakland's owner is worth like $2 billion. Like,
yeah, so spend a little. You can't take $100 million for your team.
Exactly, they can spend it. And
I mean,
again, if you put a product that's worth watching, people will come to the stadium. People came to the stadium to protest moving. The team stunk, and they still went there just to protest. So guess what? They were spending money and giving the Oakland A's their money. So if you put a product that's worth watching, it wasn't that long ago Oakland was in the postseason. When was it? Maybe 4 or 5 years ago they were in the playoffs, whatever it was. So we're not talking about a 10, 15-year drought here. When you win, people go to the games. It's a pretty simple philosophy. If you win, people go. If you build it, they will come. That's the saying in the movie Field of Dreams, right? Or it will come, whatever the hell it is. It's true, exactly. Because look at what happened with the with the Yankees and Red Sox. When they're not winning, less people show up. You see a lot of empty seats, but when they're winning and they're good, you can't find an empty seat in that place. So that's just how it is. When you're good, people go to the games. When you're bad, people don't want to show up. If you're constantly bad, you're not going to make that much money. But if you're giving people a reason to go watch the team, means you're investing in that team that they're a fan of. Hey, it's a Friday night. It's the weekend coming up. Let's go to an A's game. Yeah, why not? That's a pretty simple philosophy there. And yet you have these teams that don't want to spend the money that they're getting from other teams because we got to get penalized because we have the pockets and we use our pockets. The Dodgers and Mets and the Cubs and these teams do the same thing. But the A's, who get to sit back and pocket it and only spend $60 million on one of the worst products you're ever going to see in baseball history, no penalties. It's bullshit.
Yeah, it's got to a change has to be made. But I mean, I'm confident. That this is something that like my ideas are something that can definitely be built off of. The one thing I want to get into, because we're always especially with the off season, and the Scott Boras effect, where you have top talent still waiting. So let's switch the discussion to.
I do want to jump in one thing before you do that, Tats. There's not enough teams that are following what the Pirates did in terms of signing, for instance, Aroldis Chapman, right? I think that was what's what more small market teams can do, right? In order to reach like that salary floor that we're talking about, whatever hypothetical number it is, um, you could sign a player on like a 1 year deal to get you up to that floor, and that you're not tied to that for the entire season. You could trade that deal off and acquire assets in return. That's what I'm talking about. Not enough teams did what the Pirates did, small market teams, and all. I'm not a fan of Aroldis Chapman, but it's just an example. You know what I'm saying? Where you sign a guy, and then you've got that value. That's an asset. That contract is an asset. You could then trade him at the deadline to a team that needs a closer. You could take back. You could take back some smaller contracts in return, or minor league prospects, or whatever, or international money, whatever it is. That's smart. That's smart business. That's what more small market teams need to do in order to make this fair. I'm not forcing the Oakland A's at gunpoint to sign massive contracts. I'm saying you could sign such and such a guy on a 1 year deal for like 9 or 10 million, and then trade that off at the deadline. It can't be that difficult.
Sign like 5 players to $5 million deals or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because look at the salaries that for instance the A's have, man. Like it's quite crazy. I'm looking at the salary for everyone in their roster, man. The highest it goes is Ross Stripling on 9 million. That's the most. That's the biggest contract that they have, right? They have about 20 people on pre-arbitration $0 contract. Basically, 19 of their 23 pitchers and their 26 man have a contract of 1 million or less, and 17 of them are on 750 grand. That's the lowest. It's just crazy to me. You're looking at, and it's like all their entire pitching roster going into pitchers and catchers in spring training. They're all in 750 grand, apart from Ross Strickland, who's a veteran on 9 mil. I mean, how is that going to work? And then you look at the Yankees on the top end, who've got more money tied to our
Judge and Cole make more than the entire
18
team.
million is more than anything that they is like double what the A's have in their entire pitching rotation, and then that's our Yankees' 4th starter. So it's not fair. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. Something needs to change.
Look, you could have 3 players that reach your goal and reach the floor. You don't have to have top salaries in every position. So if you have 4 players making 25, you're good. Then you could spend league minimum on everybody else. It's not that hard. It's really not. There's enough talent out there that every team could do it. It's like everybody said. We've been saying, and everybody says, it's the owners just want they're greedy. They have a lot of money and they want more of it. Look, and they're not. Nobody goes into business to lose money, but you also have to reinvest that money to make more money.
Yep.
And owners are not reinvesting their revenue for their owning their team into putting a product on the field. When the Oakland, because I think they're the biggest culprit of it, when they were good, that stadium was packed. They show up. They got tired of the Billy Bean drama, where every time a player was set to be paid, well, once they showed that they had value, he was getting rid of them. And that's where a lot of the fans were like, screw this, and they went to other areas in the market, other teams in the state. So I don't want to. I'm tired of hearing them saying that they don't have the money to invest. I seriously call bullshit on that. As far as the timeline, let's dig into that. I have it where prior to the winter meetings, to the end of the winter meetings, everything you could do whatever the hell you want. You can spend how much you want. You can sign for 50 years if you want. There's no limitations. And then after the winter meetings, it's a minimum. You have to have can't go over 7. How do you guys feel about that?
Say that again. Just repeat that again, just so I can get it
So
in my head.
prior to the winter meetings, any
Right.
contract can be constructed.
Okay.
Okay. If you're deferring money, it's capped at 25%. Okay.
Okay.
After the winter meetings, any player or team cannot sign a contract exceeding 7 years.
Okay. I'm not sure if the players' union would jump on top of that.
Why?
But yeah, there's something there. Can work with that. Which are you talking
Well,
about the GM
so then-
meeting? You talking about the GM meetings, yeah?
Yeah, in December.
Right. Because that
So you have
tends to be
November
where
to
a
half
lot
of December, from the end of the season to the winter meetings, which is halfway through December. It's a free for all.
Okay.
All right. After the winter meetings, you got another month and a half really before you get to pitches and catches. So you're almost cutting it in half. So the first half of the off season, anything goes. It's the OK corral. Do whatever the hell you want. Afterwards, now you're putting limits on how long you can sign for. Not the money, but the years.
I think you might just have to wait till start of pitchers and catchers.
Yeah.
That's when you can start doing cap or a limit on the years, because the league year, they don't have a league year technically. It's just a constant thing. Baseball just never stops because the offseason starts right after the World Series. So you can't really do that. But if you do from the start of the offseason till pitchers and catchers report, which is basically the start of the new year, then you can say, okay, well, you have until the first spring game to sign up to 3 years now. Then you could put a limit on the years to up to 3 to 5. And then once games start, or once the season starts, maybe. So let's say you have until spring, you can sign up to 5 years. And then when the first regular season game, that's when it's a 1-year deal. Because if you sign before the regular season, especially for a pitcher, even hitters, you're on a late start. And now you got to ramp yourself up. So it's kind of limiting. So no one's going to give you, let's say Blake Snell on the first day of the new year of regular season. No one's going to give him a 7-year contract, knowing year one's going to be compromised essentially because he's got such a late start. Look what happened with Rodon last year. He was hurt. Year one was an absolute waste because he was bad and he was hurt and never got into a rhythm. So I think that's the way to go. Is you have until the first day of pitchers and catchers, which would be today. You can sign any amount, any years. And obviously you can put a percentage on the deferred money, but that's really just a Dodger thing. But then once you get later into the spring, once you go through the whole spring from pitchers and catchers till the first day of the new year, you can sign up to 3 to 5 years, whatever, maybe 3. And then once the season starts, you're capped at 1 year. You can only sign a 1-year deal. That might be the best way to do it. Because if you go,
what I'm worried
into
about though
meetings,
I'm worried though that teams might hold that over the agent going, hey,
yeah.
it suits us more to have a short-term contract, so I'm going to wait it out until February where I can sign you for cheap on a 1 or 2 year deal. And that might hold that over the agent and the player who are looking for get the bigger contract.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that I don't know how that would work, but there is something to that, because I completely agree with you that there needs to be something done where for major free agents, I believe that especially pitchers, there needs to be a deadline of pitchers and catchers. I think that needs to be done because they need pitchers and catchers. All pitchers need to have that extra time to get their arms ready. It's a big difference than just throwing in your backyard. You need that early start in order to be fit and ready to go for a full season. And so I agree there needs to be some kind of a deadline. That's what I kind of was thinking. There should be a signing deadline, but then obviously the problem is there's transactions that happen all the way through the year, as Rob points out, and you need to pick up guys and waiver guys and all this stuff. So, like, if you work out like the major free agents, especially pitchers, they need to be all wrapped up by pitchers and catchers in order for them to be able to be guaranteed that they're going to be able to make it. So I think something needs to be done with that, man. So we do need to work on that, but we're certainly there. And I completely agree with this 25% deferral maximum, because what the Dodgers did with Ohtani and Yamamoto's contract is a complete disgrace.
If
They're taking advantage of the system and it works for them. They didn't do anything wrong, but it's disgraceful. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. Like,
look,
that should reflect on this year's payroll, and the fact that it isn't is a total sham. So 25% maximum for a contract is more than fair.
Look, if they had to tweak the brackets because of Cohen, and create that new tier, because holy shit, everybody's going to go on a spending, he's going on a spending spree. That they, you have to have that. Like, that's a little too. That's too rich of a deal. We have to put a limit on that. There's got to be a penalty for it. But I don't want to penalize teams for structuring contracts that are in favor of both parties. So that's why I just put a cap on it, 25%. And LA's right. I think LA's the only one that's listening to us. But everybody's talking about.
If you don't sign in spring training, you don't play.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
That's because you do have veterans that are just at the tail end that are just looking for a home that nobody's just looking at. So you have to give them the opportunity to sign at some point. I think Rob's idea with the with adjusting the years and the deadline. See, the way I was thinking, the way my mind was working, right? Scary enough. I wanted, before the winter meetings, I wanted it to be business as usual. Yeah, because you're not going to want to take the risk of not having players on the market that you need to sign. I think it prioritizes getting deals done, getting things moving along a lot quicker and earlier in the season, as opposed to waiting for the very last minute and having top talent just sitting there rotten.
Yeah, I agree. So the chat, it looks like there's a big argument between managers here. We'll go back to normal business on Friday, where we'll start talking more about the team again. But it kind of makes sense to be talking about this stuff, because this stuff does affects the Yankees as much as it affects the small market teams, because the Yankees are being punished for spending at the top end, which is why they're probably not jumping in on Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery right now. Whereas it's okay for the Oakland A's to sit around and have 3/4 of their roster on minimum contracts, like $750,000, and it's totally fair. It's totally okay. They can continue to do that at their leisure. How fair is that? It's not fair. So, and as I say, I completely support parity, and I completely understand there are small market teams that don't have that kind of money, but that's taking the piss. I'm sorry. Especially when 2 years prior, they had an incredible team of freaking of all-stars up and down the roster, and they traded it away for nothing and on a fire sale. And what's happened since then? Are they getting better? No. They're actually getting worse in order for them to move to Las Vegas. That's a joke. You should the storyline of the Major League movie was a corrupt owner put together the worst possible team on paper in order to sell the team. Right? That was the premise of that movie. You should not have MLB teams looking to replicate the premise of a comedy.
30
That's
years later.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Come on.
No, it's the worst thing because, like you said, they had a really good team just 2 years ago or 3 years, whatever it was. Matt Olson, Sean Murphy,
Yep.
Frankie Montas when he was at his best, when he was healthy, Chris Bassett, Sean Manaea, all these different pitchers that they had on their team and they had a good team. It was a good roster. It was a roster that you can build around. Instead, they did a fire sale. And it just, everyone jumped on it. Well, the Braves jumped on it more than anybody, but they traded away so many players within like a year or two, and it was just like open season on the Athletics. And then clearly they were trying to get out of there. And now it might not even happen. So nobody knows what's going on. They're an absolute joke. They really are. I wish they would sell the team to somebody that actually cares because it's clear their owner doesn't give a damn. And it's terrible. It's a bad look for baseball. And so is this offseason.
Because they actually had a good organization. They had to move to the Washington Nationals to become the Washington Nationals, but they were at least had a competitive team for a while. They had Vladimir Guerrero. They had some good players,
Pedro,
and they looked like they cared.
Randy Johnson.
Yeah, honestly, if the Oakland A's don't want to compete, then go to an area where they do want to put together a team to compete, like Montreal. Why not? Honestly, something needs to be done, man, because it's not right. It's not fair. It's disgraceful. Look, and I know I'm kind of ganging up on the A's, but they're the easy target. Because the Tampa Bay Rays have a similar payroll. It's only like about 15 million more than the A's are, but they compete every year because they're smart and they actually. They acquire talent that they can get in the top end, and then they do compete at the whole Moneyball scale. But the A's aren't even looking to do that. They put together a fire sale, got nothing in return, and they're happy with that. And I think it's a disgraceful look for any organization. I also feel bad for the fans in Pittsburgh because if their owner was willing to spend just a little bit more, that team that has the most beautiful stadium in the majors. Facts. I don't think there's a better stadium in the majors than the Pirates Stadium. It's a beautiful city, and their fans are the most. Obviously, I spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh. Their fans are desperate to fall in love with the Pirates again because that's a historic organization, man.
Yeah,
they've still got the home plate that of that World Series of when the Pirates beat the Yankees in their old stadium. They've still got that home plate. Like, it means a lot to them. That organization means a lot to them. But their owner has kind of cheapened out in a lot of ways. And it's a waste because they have a lot of history with Roberto Clemente, and they really take their baseball seriously. And if any team deserves, if any city deserves a team that represents their passion, Pirate fans, man. Pirate fans. So I want the Pirates to be good, and I want the Pirates to spend and continue to be good. And if there is an organization that should be spending a little bit more for their fans, it should be the Pittsburgh Pirates. As I say, man, I support smaller teams. It's not anything to do with the Yankees or anything like that. I want teams with history to give back to their fans, and the Pirate fans are passionate, man. They are really passionate, and I would love to see them do well moving forward. Because hey, they've actually got a really good minor league system. They have talented players, but they have a cheap owner, and that's been a big problem. You go to the bars in Pittsburgh, and then there's a lot of fans that talk about it. Like they're upset at their owner. So I really think that. There should be more money spent on the Pittsburgh Pirates. I would love to see that. Frank Rivera, Montreal should have a team. I agree. I like the Expos back in the day. Hey, man, Vlad Guerrero. I mean, imagine having having Vlad Guerrero in your team. You're no longer a team. You're in Washington. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, bring a team back to Brooklyn.
The Brooklyn A's.
Mr. Barrows, I would welcome that in a heartbeat. That would be fun.
So you
But-
have 3 teams in one city.
I go back to a 3-team city. Fuck it. No, we'll bring the A's to we'll bring the team into Brooklyn. We'll send the Mets to LA to Las Vegas. And there you go. We'll get rid of those freaking bums and queens.
So we're going to have a team per borough. We'll have one in Queens and one in Brooklyn. I love it.
Someone said,
Jersey.
someone said Jersey. Please no.
Jersey. Oh, fantastic.
It's already a shame that the Giants have to play there. They can leave the Jets there for all I care because nobody gives a damn about them. But please don't put an MLB team in Jersey. Be a bunch of hoagie eating assholes yelling. I can't.
What about us suburban people? How about our team in Westchester, baby? Give me the Westchester A's, baby.
The Scotland Athletics. There you go. Yeah, that's common knowledge, Caputo. The Dodgers was not supposed to go all the way out west. They should have never left Brooklyn, in my opinion. The Giants, they were free to go. That was a staple of the team. That they moved was a shame. They should have started. They should have just expanded the league at that point. But that wasn't a popular thing back then. But
call them the Brooklyn Bombers. That's the Yankees' nickname. They're not going to have a team named after another team's nickname.
Yeah, that's you're losing me, Mr. Barris. But no, I think
the language in New York City. Amen, brother.
That's true. Hey, fucking man. But, oh shit! But no, it's what we really
you guys have ideas in which to help with the parity around baseball. Hit us up. We'll be interested. It's not just us kind of spitballing here, but I really appreciate that Tats has sat down and spent a lot of time thinking about ways in which we can improve the league, and I think we should give a big shout out to Uncle T here because he cares more than a lot of the owners do. Have you got any other suggestions, Uncle T?
I mean, I said I eliminate the qualifying offer. It doesn't work. I also think we should look at you know what we should close out with this whole thing with Billy Epler with the Phantom IL, because it's one of those things that everybody does and nobody talks about, and because the one guy that doesn't have a position right now, they made him the scapegoat. Was that fair?
Not at all.
I thought it was bullshit.
I can guarantee you every other team does it because the Yankees have certainly done it. A guy's struggling, conveniently he's got an elbow injury, and the next thing you know, he's back in 2 weeks. Like every team in baseball does it. The Phantom IL is used every single year. And Caputo, I disagree. I think you keep the Mets in New York because they got a big following. As much as I can't stand that team, they got a really good following. And when they're good, it's good for the state of baseball. It's good for the state of New York. So
yeah,
I don't take the Mets out of the state. But
Aroldis Chapman, infected tattoo.
Yeah, and IL
Ellsbury.
Yeah,
he was on the IL for 7 years.
He was on the last 3 years. The last 3 years of his deal, he was literally on the IL for every single one of them. So you're telling me that wasn't a Phantom thing? Like, come on, every team does it. But since Epler was let go, they use him as a scapegoat. Yeah, and Caputo doesn't mean I don't care if they're a winning or losing franchise. When they're good, how many times do you see that stadium selling out? People love the Mets. They got a very big fan base. We may hate them, but let's not use that hate to ignore what they are, which is they got a very passionate fan base. I don't like them by any means, but Mets fans are incredibly passionate about their team. So no, you don't take them out of New York. That'd be foolish. To give a team to Brooklyn, it'd just be the same thing.
Yeah,
there are people in Brooklyn already Yankee fans and Mets fans anyway. So what do you think's going to happen? Come on. They thought moving the Nets to Brooklyn would bring this whole new crop of fans, and that really didn't happen. The Knicks still run the city. So, I mean, yeah, you're not going to do anything. You take the Mets out of New York, no, they're not going to go run to be Yankee fans. Those Mets fans, If they move to LA, they'll just be LA Mets fans or Las Vegas Mets. They'll just root for them. The same way the Oakland Raiders fans are now rooting for the Las Vegas Raiders. So no, you don't take them out of New York.
No, that's the Mets fan base was created on the fact that the Dodgers and the Giants left New York and they refused to root for the Yankees.
Yeah.
So that's why they had to put another team back in New York.
Yeah.
Because nobody was going to the Yankee games because they were still Dodgers and Giants fans.
Yeah.
It wasn't all Yankee fan base. So you need that balance. New York's New York is one of those few cities, like LA too. You have to have that, you need that battle. You need that inner rivalry. So yep.
Every team does it.
It's
that's a good point, man.
Yeah. I think it's I just thought it was unfair. I wanted to bring that, speak my mind on that. But Jonathan threw an idea out with the rules about the pitch clock. Should be increased to 25 seconds with runners on and 20 with no runners. Should they increase the pitch clock?
Yes.
What is it now?
I think it's 15 if there's I think it's 20 seconds if there's a runner on, 15 if there's nobody on.
Yeah, and then it's kind of complicated for batters because they need to be in the box by like
8 seconds. Yeah.
It's like I think they could extend that just a couple seconds. I think it's a little bit too complicated. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just keep it simple. They need to make things simple. I do agree with the quickening the game. It's not a problem. It's just let's make it a little fair.
Like 2 seconds more, maybe. That can make it.
Well, I'll say this, right? You guys heard me. I was pissed off about the clock. That was the one thing I held over every other sports fan base. There's no clock in baseball. Well, now there is, and it pisses me off. Being at the games, you don't even notice it.
Yeah.
You really don't. For somebody, I swore that if they ever put a clock on baseball, I'd never watch again. Like, I hated that they were going to put a time on this game. Aggravated me to no end. So if I'm saying you don't even notice it, that's going to tell you that it's really not disrupting the game that much. What I will say is where I do like Jonathan's idea, there were a lot more pitchers injuries this year. I think a lot of pitches were throwing a baseball, that motion is not natural.
Facts, man.
Now you're rushing people to do that over and over again at a high velocity.
Yeah, but now more people are used to it because it was in the minors and now it's in the majors for a year. So now I don't think that's going to happen again.
So, all right. So, we might see in 5 years it start to drop back as the veterans, retire from the game. And that's true too. And they're also...
They did decrease it, right, Dame? Yeah, Damien brings up a point. They decreased it this year. I think it went down. That's why I was like, when he said 20 to 25, I was like, what's the number now? Because they decreased it. I just don't know what the number is.
But
I know.
I missed that.
Yeah.
If you know what the new rule is, just let us know.
So you can Google it quickly.
That's even worse. No, I don't want to see. Do we need the robotic umps?
No, you need Angel Hernandez out of the sport, and then we'll be a lot better. Get that goofball out of there, and then we'll be in a much better spot. I can't stand that guy. He makes every game about himself.
Yeah. I'm saying, if you know the umpire's name, there's a problem.
Right. The best umpires, you don't even know their names. Like, people remember, what was his name, Joyce, because of the bad call at
first. I got it here. The pitch clock with runners on will be reduced from 20 to 18 seconds for the 2024 season.
That's all right. That's not terrible. It's not that crazy. That's fine.
That's manageable.
18 seconds is plenty to pick a pitch and throw it. That's plenty of time.
Yeah, but like I said, you don't even realize it. I think what the clock did take away was that chess game between the hitter and the pitcher. It's you want to get inside their head. You want to throw them off their timing. I think it's the pitchers now are off their timing, not the batters. That's what I don't. That's the one thing I still don't like about it. But like I said, it's when you're at the game, it's not. You're not even paying attention to it.
Yeah, and some players, yeah, you can say Nestor got affected by it, but I think his injury had more to do with it. But some players didn't even matter. Garrett Cole has had his best season of his career
Yep.
with the pitch clock. So, I mean, I guess it just goes to different players are going to handle it differently. But now with the whole year of it, and again, it's been in the minor leagues for a couple of years now. These players are going to be used to it at this point. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of guys rushing. They're used to it now. They know what they got to do. They know the rules, and you won't see as many batters box infractions, whatever the heck it's called. You probably won't see that much of that. Now they're used to it. I think this year will be a lot better. But like you said, you really didn't notice it last year. And the games did go by quicker. And to be honest, it's a little bit more enjoyable when you know they can finish watching a game within 2.5 hours. It's like, I don't need to be sitting there for 4 hours from 8 o'clock at night, especially on a Sunday night game, 8 to 12. Why? So I can watch the Yankees and Red Sox stare at each other for 20 minutes. Like, you could have sped the game up. It was fine. I think it was a good thing.
Yeah. See, like once you get used to it, like you don't even notice. Like my argument for a while was for the amount of money I'm spending on a ticket to go to these sport games, they're all trying to rush us out. So I'm like, you want me to spend more, but you want me out quicker. That was part of the aggravation too.
3 hours.
I have a list of the rule changes, guys. I have a list of the modifications, I should say, not rule changes. The modifications for 2024. The biggest one is the runner's lane. The runner's lane will be widened to include the dirt area between the foul line and the infield grass. Widening the lane allows batters to take a more direct path to first base while retaining protection from interference. The distance between the foul line and the infield grass will be between 18 and 24 inches in all parks. This was something that players were pushing for due to the difficulty last year. So they've widened that. So that's one of the big things. Timing between pitches, reduced time from 20 to 18 seconds with runners on base. Pitchers begin their deliveries with an average of 7 seconds remaining on the 22nd timer clock in 2023. Anyway, retain the ability to step off and reset the clock up to 2 times without penalty. Better batter timeouts. Based on player feedback, MLB withdrew a proposal that would have required the home plate umpire to reset the pitch clock after a batter called timeout. Okay, so there's other things here. Mound visits have been reduced from 5 to 4.
Good.
With extra mound visit granted in the 9th inning if the defensive team has 0 remaining at the end of the 8th inning. And pitchers who warm up must face at least one hitter. A pitcher who is sent out to warm up for an inning must face at least one batter, in addition to any requirements under the 3-batter minimum rule. There are 24 instances this season where the pitcher that warmed up between innings was replaced before even throwing a pitch. So, I mean, these are little things. Tony Clark spoke about it. We all love Tony Clark.
So, wait a minute. If you're warming up in the bullpen, you have to face a batter?
Yeah, pitchers warm up must face at least one batter. A pitcher who is sent out to warm up for an inning must face at least one batter, in addition to any requirements under the 3-batter rule.
Oh, okay. I think I know what that means. So basically, if he's sent out to warm up, does that mean in the bullpen or on the mound? Because sometimes you'll see teams like switch their guys around. But no, they took that away though with the 3-batter rule.
Says there's 24 instances this season where the pitcher that warmed up between innings was replaced before throwing a pitch. So that means that they've come out to warm up, and then obviously they made a change, and then so they've changed that. Tony Clark spoke, and he says this afternoon. What did he say here? Players strongly feel that following last season profound changes to the fundamental rules of the game, immediate additional changes are unnecessary and offer no meaningful benefits to the fans, players, or the competition on the field. This season should have been about gathering additional data and fully examine the health, safety, and injury impact of the reduced recovery time. This is where the focus should be. So it looks like MLB just went ahead and just did it. because it doesn't look like Tony Clark or the players' union are on board with a lot of these changes.
They never are.
Apart from the increased lane between 18 and 24.
It's
But
just so weird.
I can't believe I actually agree with Tony Clark on something.
Yeah.
It
That's
should
been
have
so
been-
weird.
I know, because I really don't like that guy. Really don't like that guy. It really should have been about looking at the health benefits and the recovery time for these players who are paid a lot of money and we have a high stakes on, and maybe we don't know what the full benefits are yet. So should you still be reducing the clock from 20 to 18? What benefit is that? Is that a massive benefit? Is there really any point to that? Like, I don't know about that. So very, very weird. I don't get it.
So, me, I'm going to work.
Don't.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's on the mound. It's not in. It's not on the building.
No, my wife and I do not celebrate Valentine's Day, so I'm lucky there. I do not have to worry about it.
You know how many people would love to be in your spot right there where you don't have to worry about Valentine's Day in a relationship?
Yeah, right.
Yep. But tomorrow it will be 19 years that we met. So we always celebrate. We don't do Valentine's Day, but we do celebrate the 15th.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So
You
just
got
to
it.
give full disclosure on that. So
But you'd have to
years tomorrow,
celebrate
that's
2
crazy.
days in a row. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
see
they
why you
happen.
do it, yeah. That's smart thinking.
Not on my salary.
Well, happy
Maybe-
anniversary, I guess, to,
Yeah.
to Uncle Grandpa Tats.
Maybe instead of giving that shared revenue to the A's, you can give it to Uncle Tats so he can get his wife a very well-deserved gift for their anniversary. How about that? Oakland A's don't
she's got
deserve
me.
it.
I'm the gift that keeps on giving.
Nah, Mrs. Tats deserves more for putting up with you on a daily basis. She deserves a lot more.
But no, I hope everybody that does celebrate does enjoy the day with their loved one. But that is going to wrap things up on Friday.
Yeah,
Because at 1 o'clock, yeah, because at 1 o'clock there is going to be a press conference with Boone. Caputo threw that in the chat earlier. So we will be breaking down, because Boone is just a gift. You're talking about a gift that keeps on giving. Comedy gold every time he speaks. But we'll be breaking down the press conference. And yeah, thanks, Ivan. Well, if you haven't already, smash that like button, hit the sub button. We are 20 away from right now, 20 subs away from 600. Let's try to get that. We want to get to 600 by spring training. And with the help of you guys, we can definitely reach that goal. So,
yeah, anybody watching after the fact, hit us up in the comments, like your ideas to our suggestions, whether you agree, disagree, what you can work on. Share it out to people that you think would maybe be interested, Yankee fan or not, doesn't really matter. You don't need to be Yankee fan to discuss this particular episode. It'll be interesting because I think there's a lot of good ideas here from the panel about.
Let's also give a quick shout out to the one. There's one person every show will put a comment in, and he goes under the name Sonny Corleone. And every show, whether it's ours, the Girls on Sunday, the After Dark, he always, with timestamps and everything, will comment on what he thought of the show. So, Sonny, I know you don't get to see the live shows, but shout out to you. We appreciate the feedback after the fact. And so, appreciate that. So, I want to give you your due there. So, if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the sub button, share this out, friends, family, stranger around the corner. We will be back on Friday morning at 10 a.m. as always, where you pinstripe your pride and play hard.